You notice in this shot, the steam is coming off the back of the table, so they actually could just have a steamer somewhere below that gives the illusion of a nice, hot, fresh pizza. It could also be a tampon soaked in hot water that's just laying behind the pizza and steaming up. Hi, I'm Lish Steiling. I'm a chef, food stylist, and culinary producer. I've worked on all kinds of food styling gigs, from commercials to television shows and print. Today, we'll be breaking down food styling and TV commercials. This commercial's for Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut, baby. Detroit-style pizza with the cheese all the way to the crispy edges. Savory sauce poured right on top. Go ahead, get yourself some Detroit-style. The Detroit-style pizza.
Look at that cheese pull. Typically, you want to be able to use the right kind of cheese. Mozzarella is the stringiest, pulliest kind of cheese that you can use. If you're buying the pre-shredded, any kind of cheese really, normally it has an anti-caking agent on it, so it doesn't always give you the best melt. So really, the best thing to do is to shred it yourself off of a block. The cheese has to be at the right temperature. This can't just be out comes the pizza and you do it, because then the cheese is too hot and it's gonna slide off the sauce. If the cheese is too cold, it's just gonna break and snap. It has to be that perfect moment, that slow-mo shot, bow chicka bow wow, just perfect. Once you start the cheese pull, you're committed. So it's all slow and steady, up and away, slow and steady, up and away. So you're gonna get one pull per pizza each try. And if you don't nail it, in comes the next pizza. The assistant in back is just cranking through pizzas trying to get these right. A little secret to the magic is we actually pre-cut the crust or the slice before you actually build it. Then you put your sauce on. You might even put a little bit of paper towel in between so that the sauce doesn't seep out. Then you cover it and load it with the mozzarella cheese. Now, you have the ability to pull up that mozzarella cheese and get that pull without actually cutting through the cheese and losing the pull. So it gives you that amplified stretch that you want in a commercial. To get those crispy edges around the outside, you have to make sure that you have a decent amount of cheese on those edges. So you might actually stick pieces of cheese vertically so that you have that crispy wall that forms instead of just sprinkling it around. That was not one of these actions. That was this action. So this is where oil comes in. I like to call it lube because literally that's what you're doing. You're taking canola oil and you're brushing it on very gently with a paintbrush over the top that makes it look hot and fresh. You want something that has that glisten that says, come take a bite of me. This is my favorite paintbrush that I have. This guy I like because it can take a lot of oil and I don't have to keep going back in. It's great for just dabbing as well. That's why I like this guy. You definitely have to consider the camera angle when you're a stylist. When you're looking at something this way, you're looking at the texture, you're looking at the pepperoni, how it sticks up and curls up. If you're thinking about overhead, you're not caring so much about all of that movement. The tomato sauce is very glistening. You just have to think about the texture as a stylist to make sure that it spoons on nicely. So this is a Kuntz spoon. It was designed by Chef Greg Kuntz. May he rest in peace. He passed away recently. And it is thought to be the perfect spoon for spooning things. The depth of the bowl is deep enough, but not too deep. And it comes to a nice point here so that as you're spooning or pouring this way, it comes off in a nice steady stream. And a little tip about a spoon, hold it like you do a pencil because you have more dexterity this way versus holding it like this, then you're just kind of awkward and cumbersome. The more you know. This is a commercial for McDonald's.
How can you make McDonald's hot and deliciously juicy Quarter Pounder even more delicious? One word: bacon. The new fresh beef Quarter Pounder bacon or deluxe.
Why do people think that bouncing food is more attractive? For some reason, a lot of commercials have bouncing food. Something to think about on this burger is with McDonald's, typically it's done on a flat top, right? So it's one side, one side. With this guy, you can tell that it was specifically rolled on its edge to get some of those brown crispy bits coming off the edge. That's what you want because the angle is going into the burger. It's not straight on top of it, so you need that golden brown all around. You could also use a torch or heat gun to actually get a little bit of that sizzle on there. This is a little specific gun that gives you a very specific point of heat. It's literally called a mag torch. It has something to do with like construction and carpentry. Might be a welding tool. So the amount of lube on that burger actually leads me to believe that it might actually be stored in canola oil. So often at the beginning of a shoot, we'll sear off a bunch of burgers and then slide them in a bath of canola oil. And when you bring them out, you can just kind of pat them dry a little bit, use a heat gun if you need to bring them back to life, and voila, you have a fresh sizzly burger that's been sitting for 12 hours. Here's the thing with getting the cheese in the right place on the bun. You're never seeing the backside of that sandwich because you're looking into the food, which is good, it's attractive. But that means that you can actually play with the cheese, right? So it can actually come forward a little bit more. You get that sexy drape. You cheat the meat a little bit forward. It's right at the edge of the bun. It looks like it's a full sandwich that you just want to take a bite of. So there's definitely tricks that you can do now to get that wavy looking bacon. There are pans that you can buy that actually allow it to drape in that way. Old school, we used to actually make an aluminum foil kind of situation that would allow you to kind of get that waviness, which is the way to achieve that. Baking just gives you a much more even heat source. Listen, I love fried bacon like the best of them, but in baking, you get a much more even appearance. In order to find the perfect bun, they might have to send flats and flats of these burger buns for the stylist to be able to pick it up. Do you see enough sesame seeds along the ledge? Is it brown enough, far enough down? Is there any kind of nubbin fallen off, right? There's sometimes that little ribbony effect that happens on a bun. Very sharp kitchen shears, so that if you ever get that ruffle on the edge of a hamburger bun, you can simply snip them off. For the soda in this shot, it looks like they probably used fake ice cubes because there's a lot of them in there, and they all still look like they're pretty perfectly intact. Also, the outside of the glass looks nice and frosty, but you can get that illusion with a spritz bottle. It's also good if you're trying to freshen up the pickles. It's great if you're working with lettuce to keep things looking crisp and fresh. This is a commercial for Olive Garden.
It's snowing, the wind is blowing.
Bouncing food.
I can't weather the storm.
Hello, lover.
What do I care how much it may storm?
There is so much happening in this commercial. This had to be a multiple day shoot. Almost every single take in this commercial is a challenge. From the time-lapsing of the ziti to the stirring of the soup and having the dribble come down. The culinary team in and of itself would probably have 4 people on it. So there's the lead food stylist and 2 or 3 assistants even, or a PA that might help with them as well. I applaud Olive Garden because there's a lot of details here. With a slice of lasagna where it's into the food and you're seeing all the layers, you need something to absorb any excess liquid. So maybe there's some paper towel in there, maybe there's a little Light Days panty liner action to absorb some of the extra. Something that's gonna stop it from oozing too much. It just gives you longevity. It looks dreamy, doesn't it? I'd eat that piece of lasagna. To get that bubbly action that's happening even on the slice, there's gotta be some kind of heat source very close by. A heat gun right on top. They take it right out of the oven and blast it and then put it right in front. Microwaves work too. But it's probably some kind of heat source on set that's keeping it nice and hot like that. In reality, with this breadstick in particular, it's probably one person brushing and another person coming by and throwing it on. It's definitely a group effort between the camera person on the pan, the lighting guy who has the perfect light coming from the back, so it's like, oh, it's sunset and we're just dusting our breadsticks. It takes a village. The pouring of the cheese sauce is all about the consistency of the cheese sauce. Maybe you have to thin it out a little bit, maybe you have to thicken it a little bit, maybe you don't have to heat it up because it pours better when it's cold. This might be being poured out of a pitcher because then you get that consistent stream and you have plenty of sauce in there to nappe the beautifully browned chicken that's resting carelessly on top of the pasta. I mean, it's a whole symphony of white and brown food that you've never wanted to dive into more, right? This is a commercial for Burger King.
What a difference a day made.
So my first initial thoughts at this commercial is A, it kind of pulls back the curtain on food styling, which is great. And B, molding can be beautiful until it's not. You wouldn't necessarily have the marks on the side of the burger. So it looks like those were actually darkened by the food stylist. So you can either use a charcoal starter that will give you that charred golden brown edge all the way around the sides, or you can paint a little something on. Shoe polish would work, or a concoction of kitchen bouquet and bitters and ivory soap to help it stick on. Kitchen bouquet is old school. It's basically a coloring when you're making gravy to make your gravy darker. This is actually a good example of how, with a food stylist, you don't want to see light coming through things. So as the commercial goes on, you see the adjustments happening. A change in the onion, nestling in more lettuce, just to make that perfect illusion of the outside of the burger. This food stylist is using a piping bag instead of a pipette or a squeeze bottle. You can see that the dollop of ketchup actually has that rounded dome to it, so it hasn't been smashed, it hasn't been agitated. Oh, beautiful lettuce. Don't you just love that? It's like a skirt. So the perfect piece of lettuce, clean them really well, soak them in cold water, dry them really well, and find those ones that have that perfect edge. Working with smaller pieces tends to be better in this case. So that kind of gives you more control of the ripple effect when working with a piece of lettuce. So once the lettuce goes on, often I'll use a toothpick to secure the burger at that point and insert that right down the center, and then that'll kind of hold everything in place. I would say the finishing touches for a burger would typically be the condiments. At this moment, the food stylist is using a Q-tip because it looks like the ketchup may have bled a little bit up onto the onion. You want to see that clean line of the white onion, right? So a little Q-tip, very specific, gets it right off. I mean, it's a good looking burger. This next commercial is for Dairy Queen.
When we're serving you Blizzard treats like M&M's, cookie dough, and new Oreo fudge brownie. All made with our world-famous vanilla soft serve. Thanks for being our fans for all these years.
Oh, ice cream's a bitch. Let's be honest. Especially with something like this, because it's soft serve, like you need it to be the right texture and there's no way of faking it. When you're talking about real ice cream, you can actually use things like cans of frosting and 10X and incorporate more powdered sugar into your cans of frosting until you have the right texture and consistency of like a scoop of ice cream. But with soft serve has its own unique texture. With ice cream, you kind of want a couple of things on set. One would be like dry ice or something that's nearby that you can get things back to the right temperature ASAP. A blast freezer wouldn't be bad. Something that just chills something down very rapidly. It just gives it a shock to the system. You definitely don't want to get trapped in one. Some food stylists might want to work with liquid nitrogen or something like that. With Dairy Queen, I'm pretty sure that their soft serve is just a tapper. They might have even brought all that kind of stuff to set, that you just constantly keep making them and keep making them and keep making them. For a commercial like this, you might be working on a refrigerated set. Not quite working in a walk-in freezer, but it's definitely below like what you would think of as room temperature. The perfectly cut Reese's Pieces, they're cut so precisely so that you see the chunks. The M&Ms are mostly whole, but some of them are halved so that you can see into it. Looking real dreamy, Dairy Queen. When you see the Blizzard, the vessel is opaque, you can't see into it. So for all we know, it could be like a false bottom cup, right? The whole bottom of the cup could be empty. They just tap in some soft serve, smudge it around a little bit, and then put all the toppings on top so that you can actually tell what it is. So this could be more of a fudge of, hey, it's soft serve with stuff on top. And that way, slow motion, bow chicka bow wow, M&Ms, hey, go in, and that's what you're seeing there. The commercial did its job. I definitely wanted a Blizzard. This is a commercial for Subway.
Subway has so much new, it didn't fit in that last ad. Like the new deli-style oven-roasted turkey and new hickory smoked bacon. It's the Eat Fresh, Refresh at Subway. It's so much new. Oh, and there's smashed avocado, too.
This one has all the special effects. It's spinning salad, it's bouncing meat. I'm really not sure why the ingredients have to be flying into the sandwich. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm home, I don't stand back and like lob my ham at my sandwich. But I mean, I guess it's just this like carefree, fun way of building a sandwich. So the right height to drop these items is actually just out of camera. There's no drop it from up here, drop it from down here. It's like, okay, here's your frame. Am I in? Yep, you can see my hand. Can you still see my hand? Can you still see my hand? Nope, okay, drop. Subway does have a very specific way of laying cheese. That is not it. Normally it's very specifically shingled on itself in a perfect paper football kind of situation going on. And it's not as exciting to see somebody lay out cheeses. I mean, we've all seen it happen. All of the vegetables in this are misted lightly with moisture. And that has to do with giving the illusion of freshness. You're like, oh, it was freshly washed, picked out of the garden, taken to the sink, rinsed off, and now it's ready for my sandwich. What I actually love about building sandwiches, a sandwich has so much movement, and I think that that's what makes it appealing to style a sandwich like this. You're not just putting meat, 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 cheese, 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 right? It's ribbons of meat, cheese that's placed just so it drapes off the side, little pieces of shredded lettuce that have a tousled man bun look in the sandwich. There are all these little elements to it that makes you want to squish it and take a bite. This is a commercial for Frito-Lay.
'Twas the night before. Hold up. Let's take this up a notch. Montana and Rice relived their old glory while adding Doritos to their Super Bowl story. Bradshaw Bettis caused a snack table to shatter. So get the Doritos.
Poor food stylist.
And don't forget the chips.
How many bags of chips they had to go through to find that many perfect chips. That food stylist must have had at least 4 or 5 people searching through bags of chips. I am guessing that Frito-Lay's had very specific standards for their perfect chip. For example, with Lay's, it had to be a certain size. Sometimes Lay's are very large or small. Maybe 1 curl or 1 ribbon in it. Same thing with the Tostitos, probably a certain number of waves. The Doritos, are there discolorations? Are they evenly coated? I'm sure that Frito-Lay's did not hold back on letting them know what the perfect chip should be, and they're probably right. The entire crew, I can guarantee you, went home with bags and bags of broken chips. I would assume that the chip bags definitely came from the factory, but the only thing is that you don't see the stamped price on anything or the best buy date on any of them, which are normally in that top right corner. I buy chips. I would assume that that was specifically sent from the manufacturer that way. You can see often that they're not really grabbing a chip, right? It's held between 2 fingers, very daintily about to be consumed, or it's being used as a football, and again, only 1 finger is touching it, so you see the entire chip in its full, beautiful potential. And that poor food stylist with the whole collapsing table scene, whoo, what a mess. You know, it's picking it up and redoing everything, replating everything, and it does take a village. So definitely the art department, even a special effects team to get that perfect bounce off the table. But yeah, that's one of those scenes where you just go, oh, the cleanup and the amount of perfect chips that it took to fill those bowls and that it'll take to fill the other ones that are gonna replace them. I hope they got that in one take. This is a commercial for Campbell's.
Dak, that touchdown. How do you do it?
People say talent runs in the family.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
Who let my brothers in?
Or is it because we feed you chunky soup?
Campbell's Chunky, packed with hearty meat and veggies.
So there's the one shot of the bowl of soup in this. The beautiful thing is that the spoon is already out of the bowl. So you can actually build the perfect spoonful before the person even grabs the spoon. The other nice part is that as soon as they pull that spoon out of frame, the bowl is still full. When it comes to this, opening a lot of cans and finding the perfect noodles, the perfect pieces of chicken, sometimes you might be able to poach some chicken so that you get better pieces, but ideally you're using their product. So in this case, you don't have to worry about anything sinking because it is such a shallow bowl. The noodles, the carrots, the celery, the chicken, it's all sitting on the bottom of the bowl and there's just enough broth to give the illusion that it's swimming in the soup. It's all right there in front of you. So it's smart styling. I hope that people take away from today just the simple understanding of enjoying a commercial for what it is, that there's a lot more effort that goes in behind the scenes than we often think about. If you can watch a commercial and go, wow, that looked really good, then we've all done our job. So I'm Lish, thank you and good night.